Welcome back. It's time to coldly deconstruct the hidden spaces of stuffed myths and face the massive providence of the universe crouching within. I'm the lead researcher of the Codex. Guys, what if we could rewind the gears of time to the very first moment of the universe? Or rather, if we went back to the absolute zero point before the gears of time even clicked together, what would we actually see? The very first record we're cracking open today is the heavy, overwhelming moment of creation, where all mass and possibility were crushed into a single point. Now, picture this vast, suffocating gap of the origin, where neither up nor down, nor the boundary of past and future even existed. The ancients called this chaos. A lot of people actually misunderstand chaos as just a totally empty void or simple disorder. But the deepest records in the original texts testify that the abyss of the beginning was never an empty void. In fact, it was the exact opposite. It was an ultra-high-density womb containing countless seeds and elements of the universe that hadn't manifested yet, fluctuating with unimaginable density, holding endless possibilities, just waiting to violently burst at any second. Beyond that thick veil of the beginning that our eyes can't even perceive, only a heavy silence with no currents or directions floated for eons. An overwhelming vacuum where not even the sound of a breath was allowed. The very first thing to tear through the veil and leak out from this crushed infinite gap was the source of pitch-black darkness that swallows all light, Erebos. And alongside it flowed Nyx, the massive veil of night that throws that sticky darkness over the entire universe. These two entities heavily filled the gaps of chaos, intertwining with each other, projecting a breathtaking, sublime majesty over a completely lifeless universe, establishing the perfect, freezing providence of darkness. Up until this point, the universe was just a perfectly still, eternal night. But in that exact split second, without any warning or cause, a massive textural mutation triggers right in the middle of this distant abyss, shaking the entire universe. Infinite possibilities that were scattered like light mist violently began condensing toward one massive axis, and pressure defying all physical limits slammed into the void, radiating vibrations that felt like they would rip the universe apart. In this abyss where light was completely shut out, slowly, but with a heavy, irreversible motion, the very first entity rose up. Gaia, the vast foundation of all things and the unshakable bedrock, revealed her majestic form. The emergence of Gaia wasn't just the creation of terrain. It was a grandiose ritual of dropping a massive cosmic anchor, assigning the first absolute mass to a formless space. Every time Gaia's colossal skeleton expanded, space itself screamed under the heavy pressure, and bottomless, rugged valleys and solid earth tangled together, forging a massive texture that crushed the center of the universe.
I shall entirely endure the pressure of this heavy, overwhelming abyss, and willingly become the eternal bedrock where all things shall take root.
A low, majestic resonance, as if exhaled by Gaia herself, violently echoed across the still empty universe. Her skeleton soon became the mountain ranges, and her breath became the first atmosphere. But behind the light, there's always a dark shadow, right? While the earth was endlessly expanding its massive body and showing off its majesty, at the absolute lowest depths of Gaia, in a distant abyss where light would never reach, another massive providence cracked open its heavy jaw to violently force the universe back into balance. It was Tartarus, an endless abyss blanketed in thick fog and heavy air. The recorders of the original texts offer a really fascinating, philosophically heavy metric to gauge the staggering depth of this abyss. They recorded that if you were to drop a heavy bronze anvil from the surface, It would plummet through the void for 9 straight days and nights, and only on the morning of the 10th day would it finally smash into the bottom of Tartarus with a dull, heavy thud. Can you even wrap your head around that? An endless free fall lasting for eons. This space, which the sea god Poseidon would later completely seal off with giant, massive bronze doors, was a massive cosmic sewer and prison, its perimeter tightly wrapped by the thick veil of night, where all the roots of the earth and sea were pitch black and tangled together. If Gaia was the massive stage supporting life, Tartarus was the chilling counterweight, grabbing and pulling from the roots so that stage wouldn't collapse. Okay, but for these giant masses to not just scatter into the universe and actually maintain the true form of a world, a fundamental force was absolutely necessary to fiercely connect them and make them interact. Right around the time the Earth solidified and the abyss took its place, a heavy wave that shook the entire framework of the universe erupted dead center in chaos. It was the appearance of Eros, a primal, irresistible pull that even the immortal gods could absolutely never defy. Now guys, do not get this twisted. This Eros is not that romantic guy shooting arrows from the later Olympus era. Not even close. Primal Eros was the very storm of fierce, inescapable gravity that completely paralyzed all reason and logic, turning your limbs to jelly and forcefully fusing separated entities together. The moment Eros manifested, the stagnant air of the universe vibrated like it was being ripped apart. An invisible, massive wave of power turned into a heavy golden vibration, twisting space as it spread out, and the primal elements that had been drifting apart were swept up by this intense gravitational pull, violently crashing into each other. But here's the thing. While this fierce wave of Eros was sweeping through the universe, the most mysterious and fascinating creation in the cosmos was secretly unfolding under the veil of night. This right here is a truly mind-blowing detail from the original texts that you won't easily hear anywhere else. Nyx, the massive goddess of night, without any partner's intervention, conceived solely from her own dark shadow and the heavy wave of Eros, and began endlessly giving birth to the most primal concepts in existence. In a pitch-black darkness known to no one, Moros and Kur rose up with a chilling crackle, followed by the freezing breath of Thanatos and the heavy silence of Hypnos pouring down over the earth. Guys, the fact that sleep and death are literally twins derived from the exact same origin, isn't that quite poetic, yet completely chilling? Nyx's creation didn't stop there. Oisis, Nemesis, Apate, and even Eris, who would later drive gods and humans into eternal conflict. Even before the shining gods of Olympus were born, the universe was already packed to the brim with these entities of primal fear and struggle spewed out by the goddess of night. Just as this chilling, unknown fear was about to consume the universe, an obscure secret text, the Orphic Hymns, describes another phenomenal event right here. Inside the formless chaos, Kronos, the god of time, and Ananke, the goddess of inevitability, intertwined to forge a giant silver cosmic egg. And the moment Eros's gravitational pull hit its peak, this massive egg cracked into two, and a being radiating blinding light, Phanes, burst out. With this explosion of light, Hesiod's epic perfectly locks into place. At the absolute peak of Eros's massive gravity, Erebos, the heavy darkness, and Nyx, the goddess of night, were violently drawn toward each other. That sacred, awe-inspiring moment of union, where absolute darkness fiercely collides with absolute darkness. Ripping through the pitch-black universe, the most dramatic, blinding, and explosive cataclysm erupted. The thick veil of night shattered into pieces, and through those cracks, Aether, the brilliantly shining upper layer of the clear atmosphere, and Hemera, the radiant day that clearly illuminates the curves of all things, violently surged upward. The heavy darkness that had dominated the universe for eons was pushed aside, and it was a miraculous split second where a fierce, blinding storm of light poured down over Gaia's massive body for the very first time. Gaia, the goddess of the earth who became perfect by absorbing the light, now releases the massive energy carved into her body outward, continuing a fierce creation. Along with a magnificent roar as the crust of the earth violently split open, Aurea, the gods of the towering, rugged mountain ranges, shot straight up like spears from over Gaia's shoulders. As these deep, sacred canyons, where the mountain nymphs would later live, upheaved, Pontos, a massive mass of ruthless, violently swirling waves, erupted like a volcano out of Gaia's wide, torn crevices. A desolate saltwater void where not a single life form existed yet. The primal friction of Pontos's heavy waves, rolling like sheer violence and smashing against the newly risen bronze mountains, was in itself an overwhelming symphony blasted by Mother Nature. Now fully equipped with solid earth, rugged mountains, and fierce seas, Gaia craved a massive dome that could completely cover and embrace her in this harsh, blinding universe. She independently gave birth to Uranos, the starry sky, a vast, solid bronze roof where the immortal gods could reside forever, forming a perfect symmetry with herself. And Uranos, the moment he was born, charged with terrifying speed at his creator and mother, Gaia, like he was crashing down.
With my vast veil, I shall cover all your curves and crevices, granting you an overwhelming sky you can never escape from for all eternity.
Uranos heavily and roughly pressed against the earth, suffocatingly covering every single curve of Gaia without an inch of error. With this, the epic saga that started in the cracks of the abyss completed the massive gears of the world, flawless and perfectly interlocked. But guys, think about this for a second. This seamless, zero-gap contact between these two massive masses, Gaia and Uranos. This was never a beautiful completion of love. This was the prelude to an overwhelming physical oppression that would make the entire universe scream. In this closed, suffocating union, where the sky crushed the earth so firmly, the Titans, the great giants who would later lead the world into massive conflict, couldn't even find a hole to escape, and quietly began beating like hearts inside Gaia's womb, enduring transcendental pressure. Under the massive veil of the sky that flawlessly covered the universe, the giant gears of an inevitable and grand cataclysm for the next generation slowly and heavily began to turn. This suffocating epic of the universe's origin leaves some very chilling implications from the perspective of modern religious studies and philosophy. The perspective of the ancients, who deliberately named the undefined abyss of the origin chaos and birthed unknown concepts like death, discord, and pain, first under the veil of night, is honestly mind-blowing. By providing a rational place of divine origin for the unknown fears and incomprehensible disasters that humans feared the most, this was humanity's fierce psychological defense mechanism to somehow understand and accept the uncontrollable violence of Mother Nature and the universe. This heavy narrative, that the world couldn't be built through a flawless God's merciful creation, but only through deficiency, oppression, and fierce physical collision, is a direct metaphor for the fundamental struggle of humanity, having to somehow establish order out of chaos just to survive. However, if we coldly deconstruct this grand, holy epic using the standards of modern science and physics, yeah, it's just an endless series of massive paradoxes that would make physicists pull their hair out. A massive mass named Gaia suddenly rapidly expands and rises out from a primordial singularity state where space and time were crushed together, and a powerful gravitational field named Eros suddenly switches on out of nowhere, causing the dark matter entities Nyx and Erebos to collide and violently spew out photons. The law of conservation of energy, or the law of increasing entropy? Yeah, in the face of this mythological romance, those are just ripped pieces of trash paper. Furthermore, if the earth and sky were perfectly sealed with zero gaps, the unimaginable pressure and friction heat generated inside would have mathematically melted the entire planet into magma for it to make any sense. But hey, what can you do? That's just the romance of mythology, right? Just casually ignoring the laws of physics and brute forcing it with sheer scale. Haha. I'm just a STEM major who used to calculate particles, dragged into the humanities against my will to seriously analyze these miraculous leaps in logic. I guess my fate is just an unknown gravitational pull at this point. Well, anyway, the suffocating initial stage setting is complete. So next time, we'll watch the massive physical catastrophe that happens when the sky and earth are stuck together so tightly that they inevitably burst. The total collapse of Uranus's ruling structure.